Welcome to our COP29 Climate Wisdom Studio live from Baku, Azerbaijan. The COP29 Climate Change Conference is happening next door, and in our studio we bring together people from civil society, from faith, from policy, from science for a meaningful conversation in the midst of a world in crisis. We aim to care, to inspire. And today it is the fourth day of the Climate Change Conference, and it's just finished. And it's been a very busy day with many events, side events, press conferences. And I am Sonja, will be your moderator here tonight. And I'm from the Brahma Kumaris, and we have had very busy days, especially in the faith pavilion, with dialogues, with side events. We had interfaith press conference, and we have had conversations in the media center. But tonight, the topic is not faith, it's gender equality and climate change. And with me I have two special guests. So I come this Thursday evening, it's raining outside and it's dark, and they made the way 1 hour from the COP all the way here. And I have with me Maureen Goodman, who is the program director from Brahma Kumaris in the UK, and Shreya Ghodawat, youth climate activist from India. Most welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Maureen, you are working in interfaith for many years, and you are doing the programs in the UK, and your mentors, spiritual mentors for all your life has been women.
That's true, yes.
And I know you as a very kind-hearted person. And we'll be happy to hear your views on women here tonight. And Shreya, you are a youth climate activist. And I have a look here, and you are India ambassador for Project Dandelion.
That's right.
And also, She Changes Climate. Can you share about the work She Changes Climate, and what is this project?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for that question. She Changes Climate is a global campaign. It's a global movement where we advocate for more women to be a part of the climate leadership and also the political leadership, because so many times decisions are being made for us without us. They're being made at us without accounting for our voices. So we want women to have a seat at decision-making tables because we bring the solutions. We lead with empathy, we lead with resilience, we lead with nurturing, healing energy. And it's really important that women-led solutions, women-led movements become a part of these solutions. When the COP committee was announced, the COP29 committee was announced, it was just a committee of all men. It was a 28 people committee that was all male. So we campaigned, we sent out an open letter, we collected signatures, and the amount of backlash that they received from us and from women around the world, they included 12 women in the committee after that. So we have overturned that decision.
So you are nationwide in India, or how do you work?
We operate in multiple countries, ambassadors in multiple countries. It was started by two of our founders a couple of years ago, when they first noticed a COP that happened about 4 years ago that also had no women in the committee. So they campaigned, they mobilized on ground, and they organized. And till date, even 4 years later, we face a similar problem where women are just missing from decision-making and leadership positions.
How is it to do this work in India, especially?
It's incredibly challenging because there is an absence of female leadership. I think our systems are inherently patriarchal. And I say that because that same sense of patriarchy that exists in the way we operate is the same sense of patriarchy driving capitalism and also environmental destruction. It's about extraction, it's about greed, it's about control, it's about power. But when you bring in this divine feminine energy, it's about healing, it's about nurturing, it's about giving. So it's incredibly challenging because you're working against the system and you're also trying to create a new one at the same time.
We had another guest in the studio Tuesday night,
Yeah.
and she is a doctor and researcher in technology, in solar technology and renewable energy, and she is from India. She has received several awards for her work, but she talked about the energy field as male energy.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's what it is, because women are disproportionately affected by it. But if you see female engineers or women working in the energy space, we're disproportionately not represented in those forums and in those industries.
And Maureen, you have had a lifelong experience in interfaith. And you're also on the board of Alaya Interfaith Institute, and you've been to Faith in Ukraine project. And is there an advantage to be a woman in the interfaith work? And I also know you've been to the you're here now in the climate change conference, but you were in the biodiversity conference in Colombia. Is there an advantage to be a woman in these areas?
Well, thank you for the question, and also thank you for what you shared. I absolutely agree with every word that you said. Well, being a woman, of course I'm going to say there's an advantage being a woman. But actually, I think, as you shared, when we show up to work in any forum, our way of working is a lot more inclusive.
Yes.
And I think that actually helps to engender trust. I think whatever work you're doing, whether it's with religious leaders, whether it's in the climate change arena or the environment arena, let me say, engendering trust is very key. And I also think because as women, we're not, as you actually said, setting out to prove anything or to compete with anyone. And also, we have the ability to listen. And that makes a big difference.
That's powerful.
Where I'm often in a minority in interfaith settings with religious leaders. Sometimes it has its advantage because they want the token woman to go in the front, Okay, fine.
We'll take it.
Exactly, I do take it. But I tend to work more with that quiet presence. And I find that very effective. And, people, energy, you spoke about energy. People sense another energy and they're attracted to it. I don't mean a male-female thing or anything, but I just mean attraction to a more spiritual energy. And I love the whole concept of sacred activism, which is something that I think women can do much more than men can do. Of course, men and women can all do this. It's about the balance within of male and female qualities. But sacred activism, it's not that we sit there quietly in a docile way. No, we have to act, we have to speak out. But sacred activism means it comes from a space of values and a space of love. And so whatever you do has a very different energy and is actually, I've found, much more effective. Yeah.
So you're talking about these soft qualities and listening, creating trust, silence present. Is it not easy then to take advantage of that loving presence?
What I found is that within that, as long as I'm very sure that I keep my dignity, my self-respect.
Your self-respect.
And then people don't take advantage. If you mentioned about, having faith in yourself or not doubting yourself, this is a very key thing. So that whole thing of self-belief.
Yes.
And not allowing doubts to overtake you and staying strong in that, listening to your heart, and actually then it's difficult for people to take advantage. But also, even if they want to, okay, fine. I'm going to stay in my dignity, and that's going to be more powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
we're talking about advantage. Yesterday, it actually happened to me. There were four men on the panel, and I turned up just to do the report and take some photos. And because I was a woman, I was asked to come on the panel.
Great.
Shreya, you have something launched a podcast called Sustainable Tea with Shreya.
Yeah.
And I smiled when I read it, because the women who led Brahma Kumaris for many years, Dadi Prakashmani, she used to say spirituality tea. Yeah, come and have spirituality tea with me. She used to make everyone laugh, and she had this very loving silence presence, which made everyone feel very comfortable.
But she was so strong, so strong inside, wasn't she?
But what happened when you have sustainable tea with Shreya? And how do you bring a kinder world with your tea podcast?
Yeah, I think exactly as you mentioned, I drink a lot of tea, which is, how I split sustainability and sustainable tea, because it's really about coming together and spilling a tea. When you're doing that with a friend, you gossip, you share about whatever is going on. So it's really comfortable, and it's cozy, and it comes from a place of love. So tea was just supposed to be this warm place where we can have conversations. But the idea behind that was to facilitate conversations and to talk about things that no one else was talking about, and to create space for that, not because it sells, but precisely because it's not mainstream. So we wanted to talk about things that were uncomfortable, things
like,
that were
for
not,
example,
climate change, animal rights, gender equity. So for there to be an intersectional podcast that sees the connection between all of these movements that are so fragmented and so divisive at the moment, that we're fighting over our approaches and our labels. At the core of all of it is our radical empathy. That is what is driving it. So if we can stop fighting with each other, whether that's gender equality, whether that's sustainability, whether that's the animal justice movement, whether that's economic equity, gender equity, whatever that might be, like all of these movements at the core are driven by the same principles. We want to fight for a fairer, better, more equitable, more just world. So if we could come together, and if we could collaborate, and if we could have the same cohesion that, the big oil and the big gas and the meat and dairy industry, they have that power because they're united. They present a very united front. So if we could learn from those movements, even though what they do is questionable, if we could just draw from that power.
A kind, united front.
Absolutely, because, we are fighting for the same thing. So I think if we peel back the layers and realize the radical empathy that exists within all of us, and then drove forward with that force, we would be unstoppable. So that's what I'm trying to create, for us to see that all of these movements are very similar. And there is more, they should be more afraid, the other movements should be more afraid of us coming together. And we should be collaborating a lot more than talking each other down.
So 100%. I'm looking forward to hear some of your podcasts
and
about the radical empathy that exists in all of us.
Yeah, it was really unique because we covered human rights. We talk about climate change. We also talk about gender equity. There are a lot of our segments on plant-based living and animal rights. And people ask me, how is the sustainability? And I'm like, there is no whether that's human liberation or non-human liberation. It's all the same thing.
Mm-hmm. So about conversation, nowadays I often feel and I experience that it's a good question is very important. We have many good answers to everything, but a good question nowadays, and especially as AI is coming here, we know how important it is to put the right questions. So I was thinking, what as a woman of spirituality, as a woman in climate change, what is the questions we have to ask ourselves, the most important question? Maureen, what do you think? And also to ask others, of course.
Yes. I think the most important question is, what does my heart say?
What does my heart say?
Yes. And the heart will guide you. Recently we had brought religious leaders together at our retreat centre in the UK, and there was a very good gender balance, I have to say. And one of the leaders said, "The mind can justify evil, but the heart cannot."
Wow.
And that really stuck with me. And I think, and I know that question's been asked to me at times. I've asked it of others, but I like to ask it to myself. Because then I feel I can be true to myself, and there can be an alignment with my conscience, with my thoughts, with my words, with my actions. But also in asking that question, I can also ask the question, well, what does God want of me? Also, and that sits in your heart too. And so this alignment and this comfort inside is important, because that gives us a lot of strength. And then we're able to face situations, move into, you know, I used to be very afraid of conflict, or, you know, I would shy away from difficult situations, let somebody else deal with it. Now, in terms of the responsibilities that I have within the Brahma Kumaris and so on, I can't. I have to be there, and I have to help find solutions. And I love to do that in a collaborative way. But I know that it won't work unless I listen to my own heart first.
So what does your heart say here during COP29? You've been here for 4 days now, very active.
Ah, yes. What does my heart say right now? Now, I love this concept of radical empathy and radical compassion.
Absolutely.
Because you can see the decisions that are coming out from the governments. I mean, I don't think I need to spell it all out. We know what's happening, and we know that the vested interests are very strong. But if I have radical empathy or radical compassion, my love for them does not decrease. That's what it means, radical. No matter what, you maintain the good wishes, the love, and the respect, and the determination to make a difference. So if something's radical, it's there in the face of anything that may come as an obstruction towards it. So my heart is saying, keep going, keep going, keep going. And having faith that there's a bigger plan.
Thank you. And this topic about making a difference, Shreya, I read an article about you, and he said that you are a visionary leader, even though you're very young, and you're a shining example of what can be achieved with purpose, passion, and impact aligned. So how can women create more impact? We need to speak loudly, is it?
Yeah, I think it's about stop listening to everyone else except yourself.
Stop listening to everyone.
Your heart, right? It's about no matter what anyone else is saying, it's really about listening to yourself, even if it goes against everything else you've ever been told. Because we've been told, we try to follow some structures, we try to emulate those structures, and we try to assimilate ourselves into structures that are maybe, not meant for us. So it's not about conforming, it's about transforming, it's about disrupting, it's about creating our own structures outside of it. So for me, the biggest way any woman can create an impact is really by reclaiming our own power. And I mean that in, the fullest sense of it. Do it even when you're afraid. Do it, with doubt. Even if our voice is shaky, I think it has so much power to make a difference. So do it with that shaky voice, do it with that fear, do it, with doubt, do it when you don't have the answers. Just lead, but stop asking for permission. Stop trying to fit into a mold that we were not meant to fit into. And I think that's what has helped me, just lead with purpose or passion, even on days that I didn't understand why I was doing this, even on days where I feel like the power structures against us are so formidable. They have a lot more money, they have a lot more resources, they are much more louder. What keeps me going is that I'm here to do this, and how can I be of service to what I'm here for, and to lead with that intention in my heart that there is a bigger plan. And even if the work that I do saves one animal or empowers one person, that's impact enough for me. So it's really about listening to your heart and going after what that voice is trying to tell you. But you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to be 100 on 100. We doubt ourselves so much that, we wait to be perfect before beginning, but just begin, just leap, and things will fall into place.
A fantastic power talk.
Oh, amazing.
Amazing. This is fantastic.
Hard
Yeah. And we're actually coming towards the end of our conversation. I thought this was an amazing power talk from a young woman. And shall we invite Maureen then to tap into the inner power and do a meditation together with us?
We definitely need that after COP29.
Yes, yes.
4 days. Yeah.
Okay, Maureen, welcome for a short meditation.
Oh, yeah, happy to do that. So let us sit comfortably and quietly together, and yet in our own space. I know what the world around me is doing and saying, but who am I going to listen to? Will I listen to the many confusing voices around me? Or will I listen to my heart? Let me go inside and listen to what my heart is saying. My heart, my conscience, my inner feeling, but it will guide me in a true way. And what drives the heart? It is love. When my heart is filled with love, there's a possibility of healing. There's a possibility of transformation. And when God's love fills our heart, then there is tremendous inner power, inner strength. So let my heart speak, let my heart guide. And together we'll create a future of love. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen, for a beautiful meditation, and thanks to both of you for a very warm and lovely conversation. And I'm sure our global listeners have enjoyed this conversation. And please stay with us, because in 5 minutes we will have the Gender Equality and Climate Change Part 2. And we will play a short video, and then we'll continue the conversation with another guest. So special thanks to all our patrons in our growing community. Special thanks to the volunteers. And for now, I say thank you and good evening from Baku. And if you want more information, you can see on our webpage. And you can also stay with us and come back for Climate Wisdom every evening until the end of COP. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you for doing that.
ब्रह्मा कुमारीज प्रस्तुत करता है एक अनोखा वृक्षारोपण अभियान कल्प तरुह, जिसमें केवल वृक्षारोपण ही नहीं बल्कि मानव के अंदर सुसंस्कारों को भी आरोपित करने का लक्ष्य सम्मिलित है। एक व्यक्ति एक पौधा, इस लक्ष्य के साथ पूरे भारतवर्ष में 40 लाख से भी अधिक पौधे लगाने का लक्ष्य निर्धारित किया गया है। कल्प तरुह मोबाइल ऐप डाउनलोड कीजिए, जिसमें आपको अपने द्वारा लगाए गए पौधे का पंजीकरण करना होगा और इसके जरिए आप अपने पौधे की वृद्धि का भी मूल्यांकन कर सकते हैं। साथ ही प्रतिदिन आप इस ऐप के द्वारा मूल्याधारित सौगातें प्राप्त कर सकते हैं। जब भी हम कोई पौधा लगाते हैं तो केवल वसुंधरा को ही हरा भरा नहीं करते, अपितु हर जीव को जीने की ऊर्जा प्रदान करते हैं।
तो आइए 5 जून से चल रहे इस प्रोजेक्ट की कुछ झलकियां और इनकी कुछ विशेषताओं पर एक नजर डालते हैं। यह प्रोजेक्ट आध्यात्मिकता और टेक्नोलॉजी को पर्यावरण से जोड़ता है। अभी तक इस प्रोजेक्ट में कई गणमान्य व्यक्तियों ने अपनी शुभकामनाएं दी और इसको सराहा भी है। आप सबके सहयोग से अब तक 15 से भी अधिक लाख लोगों ने इसमें सहयोग देकर 15 लाख से भी अधिक वृक्षारोपण किया है। अब 40 लाख का हमारा लक्ष्य दूर नहीं। भारत में सभी राज्यों के अंदर वृक्षारोपण किया गया। अभी तक इस प्रोजेक्ट के अंतर्गत देश के गणमान्य हस्तियों ने अपना सहयोग प्रदान किया और ब्रह्मा कुमारीज के वरिष्ठ भाइयों और बहनों ने भी अपनी ब्लेसिंग्स प्रदान की हैं। इस प्रोजेक्ट के द्वारा देश भर में कई जगहों पर, जिसमें स्कूल्स, कॉलेजेस, कई सारे आध्यात्मिक एवं धार्मिक संस्थान, खेत खलियान, पहाड़, जंगल, कॉरपोरेट जगत के ऑफिसेस, साथ ही साथ पुलिस ऑफिसेस, महिलाओं, बच्चों के द्वारा एवं विश्व के कोने कोने में फैले हुए ब्रह्मा कुमारीज के अनेक सेंटर द्वारा वृक्षारोपण एवं मूल्यों का आरोहण किया गया।
आइए हम सभी मिलकर वृक्षारोपण के साथ साथ मूल्यों का भी रोपण करें और अपने कदम स्वर्णिम संसार की ओर बढ़ाएं।
Welcome to our Climate Wisdom live stream from COP29 Climate Change Conference in Baku, Azerbaijan. We bring together delegates and experts from civil society, from faith, from science and policy makers for meaningful conversation in the midst of a world in crisis. We care, we share, and we inspire. I'm Sonja Ohlsson and I will be your moderator tonight. And this is the 4th day of the COP29, and we have had full calendars with side events, press conferences, meetings, meeting friends, making new connections, and the whole stadium is just full of people meeting each other all the time in several meeting areas. Every sofa is full, every coffee place is full, every pavilion is full of people. And it's hard to find somewhere to sit. We have had a very busy exhibition actually for 4 days, and we have 2 chairs there we can sit.
Yeah.
But the topic tonight is gender equality and climate change. And I'm very happy to have our 2 guests with me here tonight. A warm welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Maryam Majidova from the Gender Hub here in Azerbaijan, and Maureen Goodman from Brahma Kumaris Program Director in the UK. So, Maryam, it says on the website you are international youth policy and gender expert, and you are educator and you are a consultant, and you're currently the director of a youth feminist organization called Gender Hub in Azerbaijan, which you co-founded in 2020. You're also part of COP29 organizing committee, so I guess you have had a few very busy days here.
Months as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
But we have seen that the topic of gender equality is increasing in its importance through the years. And why is the question of gender balance becoming more and more important in our environmental work?
Thank you very much for having me today. I'm honored to be along with you. This is a very peaceful evening after a very hectic days and months of preparation. I feel also honored to be part of the organizing committee because in this part of the world, gender equality and access to women's rights is not something that is very easily talked about or accessed. So being in the COP29 organizing committee gives us a unique space and safer, let's say, space that we can talk about this topic and we can ensure meaningful participation of women and girls.
How many women are you in the organizing committee?
We are around 15, I guess. Initially, COP29 didn't have a female member, and our organization was the one which advocated for having women on board. And for some reason, organizing committee assumed that we wanted to be part of the organizing committee. That's why we advocated for it. But little do they know that it's our daily activism, it's our daily advocacy, that we always advocate for women's participation. And so they invited me that, oh, you advocated for it, you want to be in. Like, no, it's not my personal wish, it's just the advocacy that we wanted to be part of it as women, not as a gender hub. So later on, we started to see this as an opportunity to organize a lot of events, bring a lot of people, give a space for younger generation as well to talk about climate change and the importance of women's participation and adaptation, mitigation, and also how we can support women in loss and damage processes, because still there's a lack of adequate funding, there's lack of adequate spaces where women can actually come together, build communities, and advocate for their own rights. It's still taboo in a lot of communities for women even to go out of their houses. It's considered to be a shameful practice that, oh, you are doing something for community, but what about your children? What about your family? You are the one which is only born to take care for your kids. Unfortunately, this is still the case in Azerbaijan, and as Gender Hub, we try to mobilize communities, especially in the rural areas, for women to empower other women and to feel empowered by their own network of female leaders.
So how is women's empowerment connected to climate change?
Yeah, it's about the impact of climate change on women. And if you are actually impacted by certain problems, issues, you need to have a say in that, and you need to be a part of the solution, not only to be an end user of the decisions made by patriarchal system, unfortunately. So we really want women to be on board, especially in the cases which impact their own lives and lives of their households and lives of their kids and of their communities. We want women to be part of the decision-making processes related to climate action. As you may know, that climate change impacts the reproductive health of women in different directions, not only while birth, but also after birth. During menstruation processes, they have miscarriages due to the heat. They have hormonal problems due to the stressful situations that is caused by migration, forced migration due to the climate change. If it's floods or if it's some other natural disasters also caused by climate change. So they have to move from their basements, from their homes, and seek a new home, and then they don't have adequate resources, especially sanitary, hygiene, water resources, even to have shower, or to care for your baby, to have a proper nursery. And a lot of times we feel that male participants, especially during COP, they say, oh, we can, take care for you. You don't have to think, what different perspective women can bring. We all know that this is, bad. Yeah, but women bring different perspective because they have their own paradigms. You can't feel what women go through, especially when it comes to the reproductive health and rights.
So thank you very much for describing the seriousness of the situation and fantastic work you're doing in this part of the world.
Thank you.
I feel your courage when you're sitting here describing it.
Very much.
And actually, Brahma Kumaris is run by women, is administrated by women. And so Maureen, we're not a feminist organization, but it's run by women, Brahma Kumaris. And Maureen...
You don't have to call it feminism all the time, you know. We all have the same cause, and
Absolutely.
we can call ourselves differently. So
It doesn't matter.
So Maureen, what qualities is it that women have that can contribute to this world of crisis, to the seriousness of the situation that Maryam is describing?
But I think Maryam has already described some of those qualities, but I think that women have a certain strength and a resilience that is more natural to women, quite honestly. Of course, you can only generalize because all men and women are different, and you know, nothing is just a blanket thing. But that's what I do see, and because of that strength, I think women have, you know, like a lot more perseverance to see something through. They won't get put off easily. You know, they will be determined, because if you think about the role women play in bringing up children and nurturing the family, and particularly in rural communities and developing communities, they need so much resilience and strength to go for miles to get water, to be, you know, usually working the agricultural sector. I mean, the whole, you know, I don't like to use the word burden, but it is a burden actually on women, is very strong. And women really make the world work. I really feel that. And so, yes, in climate change, women bring that perspective of the reality of life, that if you want life to continue, this is what is needed. Yeah.
Our strength and resilience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
keywords.
Maryam, you are now directing the Gender Hub, and you shared a little bit about the work. Maybe you can tell us practically what the Gender Hub is doing here in Azerbaijan, but also what is your personal driving force? Why did you engage yourself in this topic? It's unusual here.
Yeah, I'll start why it's personal, and then I will talk about the work of Gender Hub. So I was raised by a single mother, and all my life I had to prove my every success. People would tell me, "Oh, you are in this field because you don't have a father. You are independent because you don't have a control hand on you. You are free to voice because there's no man who is behind your back, you know." And another point was that you are doing this because you feel like, you know, you will get some recognition for that. So it's a lot of times all the misconception about my gender and, you know, why I'm doing this as a woman. Or probably they would say, "Oh, you're promoting you know, reproductive health rights, because what did you do in the past that you need to, you know, what kind of trauma you have that you promote reproductive health rights?" So it's like basic human rights that we're promoting, but in our reality, it's sometimes misunderstood. Yeah, and all my life, my mom was always a victim, a survivor, I would say, of violence herself. And I was always seeing that and hoping for a world where my mom and people and women like my mom would not experience this. She was suppressed by her brothers, by her mom, and later on by her husband, and then she lost her husband. So this story impacted me a lot, you know, and she never went back to, you know, career. So a lot of things that made me witnessing her, but of course myself as a girl who was always discussed by society. A girl without a father. We have a saying, a girl without a father is like a place without a roof, you know. It's like a saying, a quotations.
Very touching to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how you're channeling that energy today in the Gender Hub?
Yeah. And now, and I strongly believe that sharing the stories is very important. I do share a lot, and I bring the stories of other women who are going from similar experiences. I wouldn't say same, because every experience is very unique. And we cannot expect it to be the same, but we give them the floor to share their learning, their reintegration process back to society. We use social media as a great tool because, first of all, it's free to use. As NGOs, we don't have access to a lot of financing, so we need to use alternative sources, such as social media. We do have a lot of interviews with influencers. We bring together different decision makers to support our vision. Because one thing is that I say that gender equality is good, but the other thing is a blogger, a face person, or a person who is really has respect where society tells that. So we try to bring this multi-stakeholder approach, and we work a lot in the rural communities with teachers, with human rights educators / lawyers, you know, social workers. We mentor them to organize follow-up activities every time they come to our projects. So for us, it's important that after every project, we ensure a short, small follow-up activity by every participant of our activities, so that it continues in a sustainable manner. Let's say a teacher comes and they learn about, you know, gender-based sex selection, which is, we call it selective abortion. In this part of the world, son preference is still a huge issue. So women would be forced to abort their daughters in order to prove to society that they're good wives, they're good women, that they brought men to this world. So they would go to the schools and they would start to work with the mindset of kids, starting from the, you know, first grade, second grade. Well, maybe they don't call it gender equality, but they start to show them what is the role of women, role of men. Actually, we are all unique in our own way, and we can have access to the same resources, same opportunities, and maybe we also need some inclusion here. Maybe someone needs a different support mechanism, let's say women.
Thank you for sharing. You have a lot to share, and you have many stories.
Yeah.
And you're a powerful leader. I can feel that.
Thank you.
And talking about leadership, Maureen, yesterday in the COP29, you were in a panel in the Faith Pavilion about women leadership in climate change. It was organized by Dr. Husna Ahmed, and she will be a guest here tomorrow evening. But maybe you share some of the points that came up in your side event yesterday about women leadership.
Yes, very much. Dr. Husna Ahmed, as you said, was chairing it, and she began by pointing out about the imbalance, because there's an imbalance in power. So, as you have said, not enough women at the table. There were several speakers. Dr. Iyad, who runs Faith for Earth and working for gender inclusivity as well. A woman who's part of the organising committee, you would probably know her.
Not the one.
Yes, that's right. And she was amazing. She was describing her inclusive cafe, where she includes young people who are autistic or have Down syndrome. They run the cafe. They have a stand here. Do you know what it's called?
Kashalata.
Yes. So please, anybody listening who's in COP29, please go there. So she's really empowering young people. And I'm very, so her story was, because she had an autistic child, she decided this is what I need to do. And like you said, it was like born out of her own experience that she began this as for yourself. And there was, we had video messages, someone who's created a different method of accounting, which takes into account non-material gain, so not just the finance. And in fact, he said that accounting is a colonial system. That hit home. That was very interesting.
Yeah.
I was also speaking and mentioning about some of the projects that we're doing, and one of them, because women are more vulnerable when it comes to climate change, and they can be misplaced, they're also not misplaced, displaced. Sorry, they're also more vulnerable to to trafficking.
Yeah.
And we have a project where we're working with, in Central America, where we're working with policymakers, with judiciary, with other NGOs, to help empower women who've been victims of human trafficking so that they can begin to have a better life and a different life. But when I think about the session, the essence of it was empowering women, but in two strands in a sense. One is being able to provide those platforms where women can come forward and be part of decision making, but the other is for women themselves to have that deep self-belief to come forward and play those roles. And there was a couple of young women in the audience, and they were saying, we need training, we need help, we want to do this. How can we do it? You know, and I know what the work I've had to do on myself, because I used to allow, whether it was a father or a husband, to take decisions for me. And at one point I thought, I'm not taking my own decisions, you know, what's going on here? And you know, you've probably had this experience when you first take your own decision, not listening to anybody, but listening to your heart. It's like, I felt it was like taking a dive into a diving pool, you know? It was like something so out of my, you know, that was amazing. So this training, and I've had to work so much on my own self-belief. So no matter what others are saying, like you have also pointed out, I know what it is that I need to do. And, you know, I've had very good mentors. You mentioned our organisation is run by women, and one of the women I was with for 40 years, because our organisation was put in the hands of women by the founder, and a woman of great wisdom, a nurturer, and someone who could see your potential more than you could see for yourself, and believed in you. And I always feel it's the greatest gift you can give someone is to believe in them. And so I feel very fortunate. But I was asked a question recently, what was the most important thing you took from Daddy Janki, her name is? And I said, she would never ask us to do anything that she herself had not done. And that was a real strength, and I try to inculcate that in my life too.
So thank you for sharing, and also sharing how you're working on yourself, and we have to do that to step into the leadership role. And it brings me to next question for you, Maryam. I heard one of your videos on YouTube, and you say one of your strongest values in your life is to challenge yourself daily. And how do you challenge yourself here during the climate change conference? And how do you stay self-aware during this pressured time that the conference is?
That's a very relevant question for this situation we are going through at the moment. I like to receive feedback. I also like to give feedback, receiving and giving feedback. I guess what Maureen also mentioned earlier, mentoring, I also had very good mentors who challenged me by providing feedback on time. And I like to analyze a day. Every day we're trying to have check out with our team to reflect on what is going on, because if you don't sit and, you know, because it's such a pressure, if you don't sit and point out, okay, this is what we are getting from today, and that's what we are going in tomorrow, you know, to have some kind of reflection and analyzing session, let's say we could call it this way. So for me, having this reflection, maybe not daily, but in this case we do it daily, but normally with our team we also sit down and we try to see what our takeaways, what our feedback to each other, how can we challenge ourselves in a good manner, of course, in terms of developing and taking a next step as an organization.
Interesting to hear. Yeah, talking about reflection and self-analyze, maybe we should try some meditation together with Maureen. She can guide us in a silent reflection, how she does it in the evening when you analyze your day, maybe.
Yes, I do.
Shall we do that?
You want to know all my secrets?
No, not yet.
Okay. So let us take a journey away from all the chaos that may be around us, to find a quiet space inside, to go into my own inner sanctuary where I feel safe. And in that inner sanctuary, I can look at myself. But first, I want to look at the strengths, the resources that I have inside that help me move through life. And I discover my original qualities. Each one of us has an original nature of peace, of love, of wisdom. These are my strengths that support me, that give me courage. And when I look at myself in terms of maybe the day, maybe I'm looking over my life, from that position of strength, I can honestly see what it is that I need to do. And I can see what it is that I've learned. And so I move forward. I listen to my inner feelings. I listen to the divine. And I know what it is that I need to do. And I do that with purpose and meaning. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for a beautiful reflection. And we're coming towards the end of our conversation. But before we finish, just let me have 1 or 2 sentences from you, your wish for the conference and your wish for the women affected by climate change. What's your deep wish in your heart at the moment? Very short, in few sentences.
Yeah, if we talk about COP29, is of course to really have this meaningful inclusion.
Meaningful inclusion.
Is and access to justice, especially for the ones who are mostly impacted by climate change.
Meaningful conversation is inclusivity,
And
for
really,
justice.
really meaningful one. Not for the media, not for the politics.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Maureen?
There's a word that's, I think, very little used in COP conferences, and that's the word love.
Love.
And so I would like to see love in the negotiations. But for that, we need to love ourselves first and love all those around us.
Thank you so much for a very, very nice conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you to all listeners for staying with us. Thank you to our patrons who are supporting this initiative and all the volunteers behind the scene. And come back to us tomorrow evening. We have another session of Climate Wisdom live stream from COP29. And you can see more on our webpage, www.echo.brahmakumaris.org. And I think that's all. So I say thank you and good evening from Baku.
Thank you.
Thank you for moderation.
Yeah, it's great.